High pressure has pretty much been in charge of our weather since the end of February, but why is this? What does it mean for spring so far? And how are we comparing to previous springs? And is the high pressure here to stay? So many questions, so little answers, hopefully until the end of this video where I'm going to aim to answer as many of those questions as I can. Hello and welcome to this week's Deep Dive. My name's Honor Criswick. I'm a meteorologist and presenter here at the Met Office. Of course, it's Tuesday, so it's Deep Dive Day. Hello to those viewers who come every week, and if you're new, welcome, and make sure you subscribe and like this video. We do all sorts of content across our YouTube channel and across our social media channels, including our deep dive today. We've got 10-day trend tomorrow. We've got Weather Studio Live on Friday. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any of the good stuff. So I'm going to start off by talking through our weather so far. You might have noticed it's been mostly dry, and it's all thanks to this. High pressure, H for high pressure, not H for honour. And we've had high pressure pretty much dominating our weather for the last few months. Now, it's been slightly different. It's sometimes drifted off towards Europe, allowed some systems to come through, but then high pressure has quickly built back in. That's a pretty similar story as to what we're going to see over the next few days. And it's not uncommon to have, this is what we call a blocking high. And we tend to see this when our jet stream looks wavy like this. This is called an amplified pattern. So an amplified pattern is when the jet stream dips down, dips back up northwards and back down south. And because of this, we tend to get areas of high pressure building underneath that jet, and they tend to stick around. But what's unusual about this one is that it's not really gone anywhere since around about the end of February. So for much of spring in particular, we've had high pressure. So it's been very sunny, it's been very dry, and last week it actually got very warm. We got one of our warmest starts to May on record. We've also had one of our sunniest Aprils on record as well, all which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So is the high pressure sticking around? Well, let's take a look. If I going to turn off the jet stream for now. So this is Tuesday afternoon. If we head through on Wednesday, we can see high pressure still with us. Skip through into Thursday, still with us. As we head through in towards the end of the week, still with us, but notice the centre of the high once again drifting its way towards parts of Europe. This is allowing some frontal systems eventually to sweep their way in, low pressure just to the northwest of Iceland there. So that does mean by the time we reach, it's quite slow moving as high pressure is still the dominant feature across the UK, but by the time we reach later Saturday into Sunday, that could just bring in a bit more cloud, perhaps some light outbreaks of rain to the very far northwest of the country, but otherwise high pressure, fine and settled. That centre of the high that we're seeing at the beginning of the week slipping its way towards Europe, but notice another area of high pressure building back in, this time into the northwest. We saw a similar pattern last week actually over the weekend, dipping away and then another area building back in from the north. That brought us the cooler temperatures, it brought us in that northerly flow over the weekend. So even though it was largely dry, largely sunny, bar a few showers in the east, it was still largely dry and sunny, but it did get a lot cooler with that more northerly flow. So as always, it's very much dependent on whereabouts the high pressure sits, but overall we do tend to get more dry, settled weather. Another thing to note actually by the time we get to Sunday, if I turn on our air mass temperatures, just notice there's a little bit of an area of low pressure just towards the Bay of Biscay here, dragging in a frontal system, and that just could push up across parts of the southwest. So a warmer, humid, more kind of plume of air just pushing up across the southwest, and an occlusion feature. So a chance we could see some showers into Sunday across the southwest, and they could turn heavy and thundery. So it is a bit of a watch point for this week, particularly as there's not much else going on. So a chance of some heavy thundery showers on Sunday, a very low risk that we could see a warning for those thunderstorms. But the main watch point, I suppose, over the next few days. So in terms of weather then, if you haven't already guessed, over the next few days, it's not really changing that much. I'm going to skip forward to Wednesday. By the time this goes out, Tuesday will be Tuesday afternoon. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday into the weekend, mostly dry. Now, a few caveats. There are going to be some Cloud at times we can see as we head into tomorrow. There's going to be a fair amount of low cloud, particularly across central areas. As we head into Thursday, northeastern areas catching a fair amount of cloud. The north of England on Friday. Obviously that system starting to move its way in from the northwest as we head into Saturday. So thicker cloud and some outbreaks of very light rain, possibly just clipping the far northwest. Shetland in particular could be at risk here. But it's not going to be anything really impactful or unusual. We're not really concerned about rainfall totals or anything like that. So on the whole, dry, settled. That cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd shower. So if you're unlucky, you might catch a shower. But overall, the general consensus, high pressure, dry, settled over the next few days. But how warm is it going to get? Obviously, we like the sunshine, but we also tend to like it being a little bit warmer as well. So let's take a look at temperatures over the next few days. Here we go. Oh no, that was the right one. Got too keen. So if I head over to Wednesday then, we can see as we head through the week, similar as to what we had last week, temperatures are increasing by a degree or two day by day. High pressure, we've got air sinking, creating that area of high pressure. We've got subsidence taking place, so things tend to warm, things tend to dry out. So we're likely to see less cloud as the day goes on and things getting warmer, so some slightly warmer temperatures day by day. Unlikely to get as hot as last week, but still likely even tomorrow into Wednesday we could start to see the low 20s, perhaps just creeping up into the low 20s once again as we head into Saturday for many areas. As always, a little bit of a caveat where we just see that high pressure slightly situated to the northwest. We get a bit of a breeze across northeastern areas. That is just going to knock down the temperatures a little bit here. So feeling slightly cooler here, but in the sunshine and sheltered spots, it's still going to feel rather pleasant. It just might not perhaps get quite as warm. So on Wednesday, for example, we could see 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, particularly around central areas or kind of western Scotland perhaps might start to get those kind of temperatures, but kind of a bit more widely as we head into Saturday, and even Sunday looks fairly warm as well. 19, 20, we're picking up a 21 across the south on Sunday. So temperatures are getting warmer day by day, and we'll start to see a little less cloud towards the weekend as well. That's away from the northwest though. So similar to last week, potentially not getting quite as warm, but lots of dry, settled weather. Just in time for us all to go back to work. But this time it looks like it's continuing as we head over the weekend. We're not going to see that cooler spell as we did with the weekend just gone. And just to show you this in another way, if we take a look at some temperature graphs, here we go. So let's take a look at London. We can see here nicely those temperatures increasing day by day. Now, with the clearest spells overnight, particularly the next couple of nights, it could be quite chilly for some. Oh, let's just realise that. Oh, I got London first time last time, but it's not happening now. Oh well, but it gives you the general gist. But the next couple of nights, cool skies, light winds, there's a good chance we could see some quite cool mornings, even though it should be fairly bright, particularly up north, a very isolated chance of even some rural frost in places. But notice even minimum temperatures as we go through the week are on the rise. So it's not just maximum temperatures, it's minimum temperatures as well as we go through the week. So this is across the southeast. I still can't get London there, look. Oh well, there we go, got Birmingham straight away. So temperatures once again on the rise, looking at 19, 20 as we head into the weekend and into next week. Take a look at Ireland. Looks like we're starting to see a brief warm spell and then temperatures cooling off. That's probably fairly similar, yeah, across parts of Scotland as well. That's just as we're going to start to get a bit more cloud feeding into the northwest with that system running through. So temperature's not going to be getting quite as warm. But still for many of us starting to see that warm spell as we head towards the weekend. Now, on the whole, it is good news. A lot of us like the warm, sunny weather, but we do have to bear in mind it has been a very dry month. It's been a very dry season. We've seen very, very little rainfall, and there is still wildfires going on, particularly across northern areas. There's issues such as very low levels across reservoirs, things like that. So yes, if you're a fan of the warm, sunny weather, it is a good thing, but there's also other environmental impacts that we do need to bear in mind. So it could potentially cause further issues as we head over the next few weeks. So speaking of it being very dry, being very sunny, I thought it'd be quite good to take a look at spring so far. Obviously, there's still a few weeks away. We're only at the beginning of May. The end of meteorological spring will be the end of this month, so the 31st of May, a little bit later for astronomical spring. There's a slight difference in dates there, but I thought we'd take a look at spring so far just because we did already have our warmest start to May. We've had our sunniest April, make sure I get those the right way around. So I thought it'd just be interesting to take a look so far. And it's probably unsurprising to note that we've had some very warm temperatures. Here's a graph showing our mean temperatures across spring, so from the 1st of March so far. So we just stop here. What's the date today? So this is since yesterday, so 6th of May, round about here. Now, if we follow this blue line, this is the kind of lowest, if you compare it to average, the 1991 to 2020 average, these are the kind of lowest mean temperatures. And this orange line at the top, these are our maximum temperatures maximum mean temperatures that we've seen across the 91 to 2020 record. So if we take a look at spring so far, beginning of March, mean temperatures were on the rise right at the start of March. We took a little bit of a dip, but on the whole, as we've head through the end of March, most of April, temperatures have been on the rise day by day. Not unusual to see an upward trend, obviously, as we get closer to summer. But notice that we have been very high. It's mostly, if we follow this down, beginning of April where we started to see these very high mean temperatures, so towards the maximum compared to average. Not only that, we're pretty much bang on the line for kind of middle part of April, and as we begin May as well. I wouldn't be surprised, it's a little bit covered, but I wouldn't be surprised if we touch above that line as well. So temperatures are very warm for the time of year, average temperatures day by day. Not only this, but our maximum temperatures compared to average. Once again, a very similar trend. We saw that very warm start at the beginning of March, a slight dip, and then temperatures have been increasing day by day. And once again, here's this orange line here. We have surpassed some of those maximum temperatures for spring, obviously seeing the warmest start to spring so far on record at the beginning of May. So if we continue like this in terms of temperatures, there is the potential for it to be the warmest spring on record, but there's still a few weeks away, so don't quote me on that. Another thing to note, obviously, it's been really warm, and yes, it's because it's been very dry as well. Look how dark this chart is. Obviously still, yes, a few weeks away to the end of meteorological spring, but at this time of year, you'd normally expect around 72% of the average rainfall, and many areas are kind of closer to the 30% mark. So still very, very low, even for this time in spring. Now the odd area, mainly it's been quite a localised area in kind of northwest Scotland, western parts of Northern Ireland, southwest Wales, the very far southwest of Cornwall there, are a bit closer to where we would normally expect for this time of year. But most of the country has still been very, very dry for the time of year. And of course, the reason for that is it's been quite sunny. We've seen quite a lot of sunshine so far in spring, particularly already across East Anglia, parts of Lincolnshire, central areas, many areas now above the average sunshine hours so far this spring. In fact, what I can tell you is last spring, I don't know if you remember, we're going to take a quick look at it in a minute, it was very wet. We're having a very different spring compared to last year. So in terms of sunshine hours across the UK, we've seen 425.3 hours of sunshine. That's 93% of the average for the UK as a whole. Spring last year, we only had 377.4 hours. That's 83% of the average. So already so far in spring, we've had more sunshine. So it's already on track to be sunnier than last year, but is it going to be the sunniest overall remains to be seen. Not only that, but if I just take us back to our rainfall map here, we've only seen about 35% overall in the UK of average rainfall amounts. That equates to a 78.7 millimetres, whereas last year it was very wet. If I show you this one here, a very different chart. Obviously this takes on spring overall last year, whereas we haven't quite finished spring yet. But we can see many more blues on this chart. In fact, last year we had 132% of average rainfall amounts. That once again is 301.7 millimetres of rainfall. So very, very wet last spring, a very different spring to the spring we're having so far. And that was because there wasn't quite as much sunshine, there wasn't quite as much dry weather. We did have some dry periods. It was one of the warmest springs as well. But we had Storm Kathleen. It was the 11th storm around the beginning of April, so still quite late in the season. That brought quite a lot of rainfall across many areas. So yeah, around 132% for the UK as a whole in terms of rainfall. So just comparing last year to this year is very interesting. We've had very different seasons. It's not going to be uncommon now that we start to see quite a variability in our seasons as a result of our changing climate. But this year, the reason why it's been so dry, it's been so sunny, is because of those blocking highs. We're still under the influence of the blocking high we were last week and we are this week. And it's all because of what I said at the beginning, that amplified jet creating those blocking patterns. A very different pattern last year. We had more of a zonal pattern, our jet stream slightly further south that allowed areas of low pressure to swing past, bringing us more rainfall. So it's a very different setup if we compare it to last year. So it is a little bit uncommon to have a blocking high for this long. As I say, it's been with us there or thereabouts since around the end of February. But we did have a similar setup back in 2020, a very memorable spring and summer because we were all stuck inside and we didn't have much else to talk about, so we focused on the weather. So I hate to take you back to that dark time, but I'm just going to talk about it for a little bit. Of course, spring 2020, right in the middle of the, it's probably more at the start of the COVID lockdown. But we had once again, we had a blocking high pattern, so very dry spring and a very sunny spring. In fact, it was the sunniest spring on record since records began in 1919. We actually had more sunshine than most summers. I think prior to this, there was only about 3 summers where we had more sunshine. So for spring on its own, very sunny, even surpassing some summers that we've previously had. It was the 8th warmest for the UK, 8th warmest spring, 5th if you just include England and Wales, and it was the 5th driest in the UK. So we're seeing a very similar setup to what we had in 2020. There's still a few more weeks of spring, but if we carry on the way that we are, if I just get up this, for example, what's it? Almost 4 weeks left to go, 3.5-ish. So if we carry on the way that we are, there's a chance we could see the warmest, potentially the driest, potentially the sunniest. So it is definitely one to watch, but is the high pressure sticking around, or is there more of a chance of rain? Well, at the moment, I've got to say there's very little signal of rainfall. If we take a look at, actually, I'm going to move on to this first. You should be pretty familiar with this already if you're quite familiar with our videos. These red colours indicating high pressure, most likely across the UK. If we saw more blues, here's the key at the bottom. Blues indicates low pressure, dominating our weather across the UK, and green is kind of unbiased conditions. So we're kind of looking out for the reds and the blues. These are our most recent model runs, and as we move our way further down, these are later model runs. And this is over the next 2 weeks. So as we move our way along, this is moving further into the future. And what can we see? Lots of reds. It looks very similar to my dress. Lots of reds on its way. And even these percentage chances still very high. Even as we get to the middle of May, we're still looking around 60 to 70%. So a good, strong signal across all our models that high pressure is sticking around. More dry weather, potentially more sunshine. Not only this, I thought I'd also take a look around where our air is coming from. Similar colours, but they show slightly different things. So this time our red colours are indicating a southerly flow, air coming up from the south, tends to be warmer. And blue colours, more of a northerly flow. So we can see green at the moment over the next week or so. That's kind of neither kind of southerly or northerly. We've just got that high pressure blocked pattern sticking around. We see more of the blue colours as we head towards middle part of May. Still fairly low percentages, so a good chance it could change. But we've seen similar patterns as we work our way down to older model runs. But something that's fairly new as we head, this is from around the 16th of May with our most recent model runs, is an indication of these more red colours, so more southerly flow. So there's a slight indication there that we'll see more of our weather coming up from the south. We tend to see warmer plumes at this time of year, so a chance that we could start to see some quite warm temperatures. So once again, if this comes off, a chance still already us being above that average line and continuing still as we head into May. So there are, further into May, so there are indications that high pressure sticking around, there's a chance we could see some more warmer air coming up from the south. And even if high pressure sits on its own across the country, as I've already mentioned, that air moving down, subsidence taking place, things getting drier, things getting warmer. But if we do take a quick look further ahead, I'm not going to go in too much detail because tomorrow, what do we have? We have our 10-day trend. So I don't want to it's Alex Burkill this week, so I don't want to step on any toes, and also a chance it could change. So I just wanted to take a look. We had, so here we are, you can see it here. This is for a week's time, so Tuesday the 13th. Still high pressure, or a good chance of high pressure, dominating our weather. If we take a look at this stack probability chart as a whole, once again those kind of red, orange, yellowy colours indicating high pressure of some sort dominating our weather. And we can see it's pretty much red through and through. Any of these bluer colours indicating some kind of lower pressures, very low on the probability scale. So it does look like over the next couple of weeks, that takes us up to the 19th of May, high pressure dominating. What that will look like potentially in a week's time, something like this, as we saw that high pressure is building back in from the northwest. So it could just bring in once again some slightly cooler temperatures across eastern areas, a chance that we could see a few showers just drifting in from the North Sea, but overall high pressure dominating, giving us largely settled conditions. And we can see kind of rainfall anomalies here as well if we move over into Europe, but we can see for the UK there's not really anything there, so dry. And it's fairly similar even as we head into the weekend. So this is for next Saturday, so the 17th. Once again, that high pressure still sat nicely to the northwest, still bringing in that kind of northeasterly flow. So still a chance it could be a little bit cooler across eastern areas. But eventually we'll start to see that, if the models are correct, we'll start to see that swing round. If it pushes more to the northwest, we get a bit more of a southerly flow, kind of like what we're going to see over the weekend, and perhaps a kind of warmer plume moving back through. But obviously that also brings the risk of showers, potentially some thunderstorms, as we can see on Sunday. So yes, high pressure is sticking around. If we kind of stick on track to what we've seen so far, there is the potential for spring potentially breaking some records. But still a few weeks to go, and obviously, as I've already mentioned, yes, the warm sunshine is very nice. Still need to be very careful at this time of year. If you're heading out for a barbecue, watch for fires. If you're heading out into the sea temperatures are still fairly chilly, so keep an eye out for those. So yes, the high pressure, the warm settled weather is very nice. I'm a big fan of it myself, but we do need to be aware of the environmental impacts and the potential health impacts it can bring to you. So that's what it's looking like. We'll have to see over the next few weeks as to what actually happens. But as I say, there's a very strong signal for high pressure sticking around. So I think that is pretty much everything I wanted to speak about so far. Make sure I haven't missed anything. But yes, but I did forget to mention this, so I'll just mention it briefly. But we've already spoken about temperatures over the next coming weeks, but particularly over the next few days, temperatures are on the up. This is temperatures compared to average, so the anomaly. So we can see from Thursday, many areas kind of around about average, those eastern areas feeling a little bit cooler in that northeasterly breeze. Things starting to warm up across the south, across Scotland, and then we start to see those temperatures increasing a bit more widespreadly, I don't think that's a word, but as we head into Saturday, some areas you can see, eastern parts of Scotland, northeastern parts of England, kind of a good 8 to 10 degrees above average, so starting to see that warmer weather return once again. But otherwise, I'm going to stop there. If I didn't cover anything that you wanted me to, or if you have a few more questions about what we've spoken about so far, make sure to drop them in the comments. As already mentioned, we've got the Weather Studio Live this Friday. It'll be me and Alex Burkhill, so I'll take a look at those before Friday, and we'll try and drop some of the questions in if you have any into our Weather Studio Live. We're across all social media channels. We're on Instagram, TikTok, we're even on Spotify and WhatsApp. There's no escape from our content, so make sure you follow or subscribe to all of those as well. And yes, make sure to tune in for our Weather Studio Live Friday at 12:15, but even if you miss it, you can still watch it, even if it's not live anymore. But thank you so much for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't already, to give this video a like, and if you're not already, make sure to give it a subscribe. Enjoy the sunny weather while it's here, and I'll see you again very shortly. Bye-bye.